10-year-old Maverick Sharon was not looking for anything that day. He was on a lake in Vermilion, Ohio, paddleboarding with 11 of his friends. It was a summer day, the kind of day that belongs entirely to kids. Sun on the water, warm air, nowhere specific to be and nothing specific to find. Just 12 children and the kind of lazy afternoon you remember your whole life for no reason at all. He was not scanning the shoreline. He was not listening for anything unusual. He had no reason to look at the rocky edge of the lake with any particular focus. But something caught his eye. Between the rocks, wedged in and still, was a dog. And she was in serious trouble. If you care about animals and the people who fight for them, subscribe right now. Stories like this one happen more often than people realize, and this channel makes sure they do not disappear. This one is going to stay with you. Maverick had no training. He had no equipment. He had no reason to be anywhere near that stretch of rocky shoreline, except that the afternoon had taken him there. He was 12 kids and a paddleboard away from an ordinary summer memory. But in the space of 1 second, everything changed. He described it exactly the way a 10-year-old would. He said, "I was like, oh my gosh, there is a dog." And then he ran. To understand why what happened next matters so much, you need to know what that dog had already been through. Because by the time Maverick found her, Sugar had already survived something that most animals do not. Her name was Sugar. She was a golden-colored family dog, beloved in the way that certain pets become genuinely irreplaceable, the kind of dog that changes the feeling of a house simply by being in it. Her owner had her in the car days before the rescue, on an ordinary drive in Vermilion, Ohio. Nothing about the day suggested anything was going to go wrong. Then it did. The driver was texting. The vehicle struck a large landscaping boulder on the side of the road and rolled. The crash was serious enough that police responded. The owner survived. But in the chaos of the rollover, Sugar was thrown from the vehicle. She hit the ground running. Disoriented, injured, terrified, she ran straight into the nearby woods and did not stop. By the time anyone could search for her, she was gone. Completely gone. The family searched. The community heard about the crash and about the missing dog. People kept an eye out. Days passed with no sign of her. Every hour that went by without a sighting made the outcome feel more certain. An injured dog running on adrenaline into unfamiliar terrain, alone somewhere outside of Vermilion. Most people would have told that family to prepare themselves for the worst. The odds were not good. But Sugar was not done. While the days passed and the searching continued, Sugar had been moving. No one knows the full route she took. No one knows how she navigated from the crash site through the woods and eventually out to the water. But she ended up at a rocky stretch of shoreline on the lake, and at some point she slid down into a gap between the rocks. She could not get back out. The angle of the shoreline was steep. The rocks held her in place. She was injured from the crash. She was exhausted from days of surviving on her own. She could not free herself, and she had no way to call for help. She just waited. And then 12 kids showed up on paddleboards. Subscribe if you have not already. This community gathers every week for stories like this one, and the next one is already being researched. Be here for it.
Maverick did not hesitate. He turned to his friends, to the group of 12 kids on the lake together that afternoon, and then he ran to find his family. His family called 911. The call went through, and officers from the Vermilion Police Department responded to the shoreline.
Animals do that. They do not calculate odds. They do not weigh outcomes. They simply keep going until they cannot. And sometimes, even when the math says it is over, they find another moment, another way through. Sugar found hers in a 10-year-old kid who looked at the right piece of shoreline on the right summer afternoon. There is something worth sitting with in a story like this. The fragility of it, the improbability, the number of things that had to line up all at once, all in the right order for the outcome to be what it was. Most animals do not get 12 kids on paddleboards and a fire department and an ambulance. Most of the animals out there right now who are injured or trapped or lost or waiting will never have a Maverick paddle by at exactly the right moment. They will not have someone who happens to look. They depend entirely on people who choose to look on purpose. That is what rescuers do. That is what animal welfare organizations do every single day. They are the system that exists for the animals no lucky coincidence will ever reach. They build the net that catches the ones no Maverick will ever find. They go out before anything goes wrong and do the work that rarely gets filmed, rarely gets a fire station ceremony, rarely gets 12 kids and a mayor in a restaurant dinner, but those animals get to live. And that is the whole point. Vermilion, Ohio will remember this summer. The kids who were out on the lake, the dog who survived a crash and days in the wild and a rocky shoreline and came home anyway. The community that showed up, level by level, officer by firefighter by ambulance, to make sure the ending was the right one. Sugar does not know any of that. She knows her bed. She knows her owner. She knows whatever dogs feel when they are warm and fed and finally not running anymore. That is enough. This channel exists to tell the stories of animals who almost did not make it and the people who made sure they did. Subscribe so you see every one of them. Share this video so the next person who needs to hear a story like Sugar finds it. She is in her bed tonight, and 12 kids know exactly what it feels like to be in the right place at the right time and choose to do something about it.